Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Did the music stop for anyone? I'm still making sure my setup works properly, so apologies for losing that very nice backbeat. And guy behind the guy, I really like that too. I am really bad at any kind of animation, so I'm very thankful for the folks who can help me make that kind of stuff. So, happy 2025 to everyone. I hope you had a wonderful New Year or holiday or whatever you've done. I understand in some parts of the world the holidays are still going, so if that's your case, enjoy the holidays that are still going. I want to thank you all for joining me in this first Confluence live training. I've got a whole bunch lined up. I'll talk more about the upcoming ones, but I do want to jump into our content. So first, who am I? My name is Robert, if I'm being really formal, and I've had a career in all different flavors of information technology. I began on the IT help desk, quickly got into project work, and found myself working a lot with what I call back office teams, or not sales or not engineering, but groups like human resources or support. And I found that these teams typically didn't have a lot of support to use their systems. They might have been given a system, and I'll use Jira as an example or Confluence, but they didn't necessarily get a lot of training on how it works or what they need to be doing. I also have a very, well, I won't call it a surprise, but something I'm going to change, and that instead of me being in a square from now on, I would like to be in a circle. So, very quick question to the team. What do you think of me being in a circle? I kind of like it. So I found that these teams that worked, to support a company didn't necessarily have the best support themselves. And I ended up working a lot with them on helping them figure out their tools like Confluence. And that's been, 8 or 9 years of my career. I've been using Confluence about as long. And just curious, who here has been in one of these before with me? And the story I always tell is I was never trained on Confluence. And that worked for me. I figured it out. But the people around me, yourselves, those support teams I work with, they need support and training. Not everyone has time and effort and energy to figure this out just entirely on their own. So that's what leads me to you. Oop. And I seem to have a small problem with my screen share. Just a minute. So during this training, there we go. So I really like YouTube because it lets me talk to a lot of folks. It lets me take a look at how I'm doing and improve, like my head being in the wrong spot. Justin, thank you for letting me know what you think about that. But it's hard to interact. I have the chat, so please use that chat. It should just be to the right of me, or maybe the left on your screen, depending. Don't wait to ask questions. I'm going to have dedicated time for everyone to ask questions about what they think of Confluence, what's going on with support, etc. Thank you for letting me know, Justin. But during the training, please drop them in. And you'll notice my friends at App Anvil are going to be helping out. I'm also going to be asking you some questions. I've thought through this training and what I would want to learn from everyone. And as you've already seen, I'm learning where I need to put my head, how I need to share sound. So I learn a lot from this group. And what I've noticed is the group in the chat will also help each other out. As you'll learn, I'm not the only person who knows Confluence or knows support teams. So please use that chat to help each other, to ask questions, to share information. Eric, welcome from the Netherlands. I have a good friend who's living there right now teaching. Gustavo, welcome from Brazil. The other thing you can do, hit that subscribe button and like the stream. This helps us out, but also lets me know, what are you interested in and what do you like and what should I do more of? So if you have ideas on, hey, Rob, I don't understand this one topic or I want to learn more about this thing, please let us know as well. It's really, really helpful. Advionics, welcome from Belgium. So a quick agenda just to orient us all on what we're going to be talking about, and then I'll jump into hands-on. This training will be done in Confluence Cloud Premium. I will call out as much as I can that everyone can do, though. So I'll try to frame it so you understand that stuff that's only available in Cloud Premium or Enterprise, or otherwise it's available to everybody. And I do that to make sure everyone can take something away. So there might be bits that only work in Premium or Enterprise, but otherwise most folks should be able to use this. So we'll start with some concepts, like why would a support team use Confluence? Why not some other tool like any one of the other tools out there? And then I'll talk about a use case for using Confluence. And it's one that I really like because I saw a support team use Confluence very well to support a very large group. We'll talk about things like processes, structure, content, and formatting, and how all these things impact support teams and why it's important to consider when we're working in Confluence. And then we're going to get hands-on. This is not just going to be Rob talking to you about ideas. I'm going to be showing you what this looks like. We're going to start from a blank Confluence space and then build it up from there. We might not get all the way through this process, but I want to give you that idea of what does it look like to use Confluence for your support team. So the first question is, why would we use Confluence for support? And one thing that I have learned is that our support teams need support. That sounds kind of silly, but I have seen groups, hire some great support rep and put them in. And then it's challenging because they don't get support. They aren't taught how to use their systems. They aren't taught how to enter tickets. They aren't taught how to respond to customers. So while our support teams can come to us with a lot of great talent and ideas, there's going to be a lot of things that they can't or don't know. And that's where it's really on us to make sure that they have that information. So we need to be proactively going out and making sure they understand those complex processes. We have to go out and make sure they understand all the requests that are going to be coming in and how to respond. We have to make sure that they're onboarded onto the team, that they feel like they're part of the group, and that they're not just kind of thrown into the mix of people and everything else. So there's some other things that we need to support these teams. This is by no means a complete list, but I've seen teams that don't do this run into a lot of challenges, and then they sit around wondering, why doesn't it work? Why don't our support team members thrive? So a quick use case or something that I personally experienced, I was working at a multinational company, over 35,000 workers in over 60 countries. And they used Confluence internally for, internal workers, and they also used it for their support team, and specifically their support team for human resources. So they had customer facing support teams that used something else, but they had an HR team that had about 20 people on it answering internal human resources tickets. And these tickets could be anything. What are my benefits? How do I log into the system? I have a complex complaint about HR, anything like that. Justin's worked in an IT help desk, manager of a service desk. Awesome, Justin. Amanda ran a support at a small startup and now at a new company in a tier 2 support. I'll talk about tiers in a bit as we consider our structure and things. And there's one thing to keep in mind as I talk. There's many ways to do support. So I'm just sharing one that I've seen work, but please tailor this and adjust as you need to. So this support team of about 20 folks took about 100,000 tickets a year. And I always think back to that group, and it's like, how did they do it? How did a group of 15 or 20 people respond to over 100,000 tickets? And they had a very good Confluence structure. Now, one way they did this is they had 2 people on that team whose job, 80-90%, was to manage their knowledge. And this is something else I've noticed that many groups don't have or struggle with. It's how do you maintain it? And this team decided to take 2 people. They recognized the value, and their Confluence space was spotless. Every single thing that this team did was documented and nothing else. So the team knew when you're onboarded, they'd show you Confluence. They said, hey, if you get a ticket and you look it up in here and you can't find it, ask the person next to you for help. And if it's not in there, we have to escalate it. It's not something we do. And every procedure was perfectly documented in every response. I share this because it's a very successful way I've seen it done. It can be challenging, though, because it takes a lot of resource and effort. So most groups I work with fall somewhere in the middle. They maybe don't have 2 full dedicated folks and they don't get 100,000 tickets, but it's so much better than not doing anything. Many groups fall in the middle. They have someone who works part-time helping maintain and handle things. So process is something I always talk about I always think about when I think of Confluence. And some teams will deploy Confluence, and then 6 months later, people hate it. They can't find anything, and everyone wonders what happened. And that's because we didn't take time to plan it out. We didn't consider what is the structure we want to be using to make sure folks can find things. Or we didn't plan out how are we going to get buy-in to get half a person's time to maintain it. So things like planning are really important. But once we're live, maintenance is also very important. Many Confluence instances and spaces are set up and they're beautiful, and then 3 months later, they're less beautiful because things change. Someone leaves the company, or access changes, or there's a new product or a new process. So we need to make sure we're identifying people to maintain what we've built. Just building this beautiful thing is just one step. We got to keep going, and we have to regularly review what's in there. This will help make sure our content is fresh, so when folks go in there, it's useless. I apologize. It's useful. It's useful. And then we also want to consider onboarding team members. When someone joins, we don't just want to point at Confluence and say, there's the knowledge base and walk away. We want to walk them through it and show them how it's used, and also show them how to add new things, and then ask for their feedback. Hi, new team member, here's our knowledge. How can we make it better? What was confusing for you? How can we make sure that when someone joins, they don't struggle, that they can be successful sooner because they know where to go for everything? Structure is one big part of this. We're going to build this out live, but structure lets us organize our information. When a support rep goes into a Confluence space, they should either be able to search for something and find it almost immediately, or they should be able to look and click and get to that intuitively. There's a lot of debate and discussion over how many clicks. I've had some people be very militant, only 2 clicks to get to everything. Personally, I don't think that matters because 1, search should support it, and 2, if it's intuitive to navigate to, that's okay. But regardless, our structure needs to be thought through and organized. It helps encourage browsing, it simplifies things, and it organizes the information for our team who's expected to use it. Now, we also need to focus that structure. We want to be careful when we build it that the only stuff in there is stuff that's useful to our support team. So it can be very easy to use a support space for project management or for policies unrelated to the team, but we want to keep the clutter out. A great thing about Confluence is we can have other spaces or other areas for things. Amanda uses Zendesk for external support and Confluence for internal. And another team uses Confluence for both internal and external. So, as I mentioned, there's no perfect way to do this. And this can be challenging. We can join a company and look at a structure and go, I'm not sure this makes sense, or it might make perfect sense. So, if you inherit something, you're working within a structure, ask around to understand how you got there. There might be a very good reason, or maybe folks just accept that that's how it happens to be. And there you can challenge it and you can present a better idea. Yeah, I feel like I talk about templates in every training I do, but they are very important for support. Templates help us short circuit the content creation process in a good way. That team I mentioned at the start in the use case had 3 or 4 templates for things because they recognized we need a how-to, we need a process, and we need a main page. And that allowed those 2 people who manage content to very quickly add new stuff. It also made it very quickly for other folks on the team to add new stuff or to access information. They didn't have to think about where do I go on this page to get something. They just knew exactly where it was. So there's different kinds of content in Confluence. When I worked with that team, we basically only had pages and blogs. And the team did a wonderful job of doing screenshots and integrating other information for processes. But now, the nice folks at Atlassian keep adding new things. So we can consider where do we put certain types of information. Personally, I like to use whiteboards for a process. I've used this very successfully as well for decision diagrams. Ticket comes in. Is it this type of request? Yes. Is it, from this country? Yes. To give someone a visual flowchart to follow, what do I do? Similar for a troubleshooting process. It can make it easier for someone to open it up and figure out what to do. For general knowledge, though, or like a how-to, I go right back to pages. And this is where I use a template. It's called, I think it's the how-to article that comes with Confluence, a blueprint. I use that quite a bit. Now, I do modify my templates, and I'll talk about this process briefly. I have an entire hour training on templates, but make sure when you're using this system that you tailor it and tweak it to fit your team's needs. And I missed a question in the chat. How comfortable are we all with templates? A bunch of 5s. Kara, no worries on the 2. On the 1, I'm sorry, Gustavo, Barbara on the 2. I like this question because it's a quick way to share, like, maybe where should I dig in more or what should I do follow-ups on? The best advice I can give is keep raising your hand and saying, I don't know this. I need help with that. Personally, I can find that can be challenging because you're like, I don't know how templates work, but that's the best way to get help. So thank you all for letting us know how you feel. How do we make templates? Ooh, I think that's Al, or I can't tell if it's an I, but Al, I'll show us how to make a template when we get into our live preview or live hands-on of Premium. But to answer your question, I don't have a page that I copy. So I'll show you what that looks like. Now, one thing for support teams, what I have found is many team members are very energetic and they want to jump in and they start documenting things in Microsoft Word, or maybe they do it in Google Drive, or maybe somewhere else. And this can then be challenging when we want to pull them all into Confluence. A huge benefit of Confluence is it's one source that everyone can get to. You don't have to go into Google Drive and a shared folder and, something else. It's all in one spot. So Confluence does allow us to convert existing documentation. I show this to a lot of teams because they don't see it. It's very easy to miss. But also because it saves a lot of time. We don't have to copy and paste things. We can import, and that preserves things like formatting. So I'm calling this out because it's kind of easy to miss, but it's a huge time saver if you find your team is, I'll say, going rogue and documenting things elsewhere. Chris, you mean Notepad isn't the best place to put documentation? There is a meme about Notepad where it's like someone who doesn't know uses it because they don't know better. People in the middle use all these other tools, and then the super experts also use Notepad. So I'm not going to besmirch Notepad at all. I'm just going to say that for teams who share information, especially across locations, Confluence may offer better solutions. The Headbang Social Club. I love that name. The big deal to manage documentation in 2 languages, and the toolbox is not easy. Ooh, that is a question. That is a great question. Social Club. Um, if you can share more information in there or with my email at the end, I'd love to help you out. I can't tell what you mean by toolbox. If Confluence itself is saying English and you speak some other language, um, why not OneNote? Okay. Um, we're going to keep rolling on the importance of formatting. Um, one thing that I am getting better at, I say I'm bad at, but I'm improving, is formatting. Now, making text on a page look visually appealing is important. That team I mentioned at the start had very clear formatting guides on how to make a how to article. And this not only made it easier for the team to read and understand because they knew what to expect and they could visually scan and find something, it made it easier for new hires to figure things out because it wasn't just a big wall of text. So we'll also consider what kind of formatting do we want to provide for our team and to help their usability, but also make it easy to find things. There are some more advanced options we have with macros. For example, the excerpt macro lets us pull pieces of information between pages for browsing or looking things up. But there are a lot of options we have in Confluence to format pages to make them easier to approach. Jessica, will it import media? I have an example where I pulled in just text. What I'll do is have a follow-up for you, Jessica, that digs into import and shows you examples from all the options. So a quick scenario. We're going to start from nothing. We're going to pretend we're at a company that has Confluence and a support team came to us and said, hey, we've got Confluence. We don't know how to use it, though. We think we want to put our stuff in there. So we're going to jump in and help them out. Now, again, for this, we are in Confluence Cloud Premium. I will do my best to point out things that might be limited in Confluence Standard or Free, and as well for Data Center. So I'll do my best to call these things out. If you can't tell or have questions, though, please let me know. This is my reminder slide to switch over to Confluence. So here we are in Confluence. And again, this is just my own personal space. A space in Confluence is just an area to put stuff, essentially. And many companies give every worker their own space. It's just your name. If you have one of these, a great place to go play around. But I'm talking to my support team. They have documentation maybe in some parts of Confluence. And maybe I'll just add something in here real quick. What I'll do is show the import, just as an example, a way to do it. I have to click on all templates down here. And then I'm looking for this little import menu. What I would do then is click on Google Docs and then select the document or click on Microsoft. I'll do a full follow-up video on this. I don't want to dig in too much to it right now, but it's the same as if I have just text, copying and pasting. Copying and paste has a lot of challenges. It can break formatting. It doesn't get the page title. It may not pull in content correctly. But I'll do an entire follow-up because it's a tool that I think is very underutilized. So our support team may have documentation in various spots that they show me. They may say, hey, Rob, here's a list. They may have it written in Word doc, in OneNote, in their notepad. Who knows? So I'm also talking to other teams, and I realize, hey, a lot of folks are using Confluence. I think they need their own space. They just need a support space. So I'm just going to go up to Spaces and click Create a Space. I have this permission. Many places I work do not allow just anyone to make a space. So if you don't see that, you might have to talk to your IT team or figure out who owns Confluence in your organization. And I'm just going to call this the support team. Support team resources. Some groups will have a space that is for the team to, for team information. So the next team offsite. Emergency contact information, etc. This space, though, is intended for resources for the support team members to solve tickets. So I want to be very clear with what I call it. And then we have some templates. Maybe I'll do knowledge base, and I can kind of see what it looks like. Maybe I'll just do custom to keep it blank. And I always recommend folks choosing an icon that makes sense. You can upload your own, so if you have one that your team uses. And then the space key str. If anyone plays like video games out there, let me know what characteristic str is for a character. I'll click next. Now I'm going to consider my features. This doesn't seem like a lot, but this goes back to I want to focus the space just on what's useful. So I don't think this needs blogs. This just takes up space. I'm not going to turn on calendars. I think everything else looks good. So you'll notice on the right over here, it's removing things. Less is better. I want my team focused just on their support documentation. I don't want them worried too much about, what is this blog thing? Do I need to go be using that? All right, quickly gonna check chat for any questions and definitely keep dropping them. I'm seeing some good interaction again between folks in chat. So please answer each other's questions, ask them, get to know each other if you want. Stephen, hope I'm saying that right. It is strength. Yes, the strength attribute, STR. I had this wonderful new mug from Confluence Cloud Premium Week 2, which I finally get to use. So here's my brand new space. Spaces start out, I'll say blank, but not really. They start out with these templates. So when I consider my support team, I want to take this homepage and I'm going to change it. One of my personal annoyances or pet peeves is when teams don't edit this page. So right away, I want to consider what do I put on the homepage, the top level of the support space. And this is where people go when they go up to spaces and click support team resources. This is what they see. So I'll come back to this because we're going to flesh out our space a little. But I'm thinking through what do I put here? Like meet the team. Do I put links to common things? Do I put a big button that says how to get support help? What if someone not on the support team comes in here? And then I'm just going to go through and I've got add your first page, whiteboard and database. But I'm first going to jump into space settings. And there's two things I want to look at in here. I can get into this because I'm what's called a space administrator. Most folks on my team may not have this. There's no need for them to come in here. So if you click on space settings and don't see as much stuff as I see, you can click on space details. Click on more details. Did they move it? Oh, no, there it is. They've changed the UI just a little bit. What I'm looking for is this list of admins. Any one of these people can give me space administrator access. So if I don't have it, if I don't see all those things, I could go to Rob or Jan or anyone here and say, hey, can you add me as a space admin? And I need this in order to do blank. You might also have to ask IT. They might be able to do it. I'm first going to check, though, my space access. Who can get into the space? And it's just me right now. And then I'm going to click on groups. And I just want to make sure I'm okay with who can see this. Right now, for me, this is fine. But depending on your setup, a different list of folks may show up. Typically, companies will have it set up so when someone joins a support team, they're added to a group automatically. However, you might be in a situation where every time a support team member joins, you either have to put in a support ticket to add them to the support group, or you just manually add them to users. You would just click edit and then type in their name. So if you have a support team member who can't get in, this might be why. The other thing in here, someone asked about templates. I'm quickly just going to look for templates under look and feel. And right here is where I can create a new template, or I can edit an existing one. And I'm going to quickly try and find the how-to. Blueprints are the templates that just come with Confluence, so everyone would have these. What I would do is come in here and then make sure that the template meets whatever my team is expecting, and that's not at all what I clicked on. But this screen is where I would come and either create a brand new template for my team, which I might do right now, or edit existing ones. So I might call this, I have a very bad memory right now, answering tickets. And I'm just going to put a quick structure together. Again, I have a whole training on how to do templates. I'll encourage you all to check that out. It's coming up, I believe, next month. But quickly going to put in some things just to help the team know what to do. And in this example, it's just going to be a quick kind of how-to. So I would just save this. I'd give it a quick description. And this is just so other folks know what it is. And then I'll click promote, and I'll show you what that does in just a moment. This would also be something I would come back and edit and update as my team gives me feedback to make sure it still works for them. So now I have a blank space, and I'm going to just start building out a high-level structure. I like to go into whiteboards and to whiteboard out what I'm going to do. Again, this is where my process of planning is very important. I would take some time to consider... Oh, wow, confetti. That's, I think that's new. I would consider what kind of pages do I want. I've got my home page. Maybe I've got to meet the team. Maybe I've got something like how to, and then another one on process. But I would make time to build out this structure so I could visually look at it and I could make sure it makes sense. This is something that I would then save off somewhere. Maybe I'll even archive it, and I'll show you how to do that in this training. But I would make sure that visually this makes sense and that my team understands the flow. I do this before I start building to make sure I don't build in the wrong direction. It's like if I'm writing computer code, I quickly write down maybe pseudocode or the high-level logic to make sure it works. But this saves me a lot of trouble. Liz, support and IT are rarely under a similar umbrella. The distance means IT admin tasks like configs are slow and low. Sometimes support teams are at the mercy of IT. Yes. And this kind of ties back to what I spoke about at the beginning, where support teams sometimes don't get the support they need. This is where us as individuals who work with support teams can help be advocates and can help push. Of course, depending on our organization, this can be harder or easier. But I find a good chunk of my time is being the evangelist for support, going to find IT and saying, no, Mr. and Mrs. IT director, I need 10 minutes of an admin's time to do this so my team can be unblocked. But you're absolutely right, Liz. There can be a lot of friction in getting support what they need. And for me, it's almost heartbreaking because these folks are our front line. They talk to our customers and our employees and our workers and make sure they're okay. And we don't give them the time of day sometime. So that's why I do as much as I can to make sure they have what they need. So here's the start of my structure. I would keep building this out until I'm satisfied. A few quick tips. I use different shapes to represent things. So I might not list out every how-to article. I might just say the right-leaning slanted rectangle is how-to articles. And that just visually represents 20 articles or 100 or however many. I would then give this a beautiful name. I always forget to do these. Support space structure. And then I would talk to my team about it. I'd ask for feedback. Hey, Liz, what does this look like? Oh, we should change it. I'm picking on Liz because I see their name. But curious question. I'm going to grab some more coffee, but how much do y'all use Confluence whiteboards to plan things out? So how often do you use Confluence whiteboards, or how much? Stefan doesn't use them at all. Totally fair. Whiteboards are available for all cloud folks. You get, I think, 3 per user on free and standard, I want to say. I'm sighing because I'm on the fence a little bit. For what they are, they exist in Confluence. They show up in my structure. So this would be great for my support team, and I'll build one of these actually right now, for some kind of process or decision diagram, because I just tell them everything you need is in Confluence. It's challenging because it's not as robust as other tools I've used. So I'm used to other features, other ideas that I can do in a tool like this that aren't here yet. And that makes it a bit annoying for me. What I'm doing now is just demonstrating one way to use a whiteboard that I have found successful, and that is to document out a process or a flow chart for my support teams. Check office location. I'm making up a process, but the idea would be someone from support could come in here, and they don't need to know anything about anything. They can just follow this decision diagram. So a ticket comes in. Is it from a certain country? Is it from the USA? Yes. Okay, you need to go check the specific office location and then do something else. If it's not from the USA, go do another thing. Dan hasn't used them yet. Most folks using Figma. I've used Figma. Lucidchart was a big one I've used in my past. Visio, of course, that fun old, I'll call it dinosaur at this point. Yep, embedding other whiteboards. Headbang Social Club, you are correct. Another advantage of using Confluence whiteboards is its Jira integration. I'm not going to dig too much into how Jira and Confluence talk here, but I can, from this, convert things into Jira. So this is one way to plan. I might sit down with my support team and plan out a 3-month cycle of improvements. I could just click Create Jira Issue, and that would put it in. I can also insert Jira issues from Jira. Andy, draw.io, one of my favorites because it's just available in browser. You don't really need an account or anything. Super integrated 1 or 2. Yep. So this is just another way, like decision diagrams. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, though, and this is the danger of just building. You end up with a great pile of stuff that isn't organized. So I'm going to go back to my structure, and I need to add a Meet the Team page. I'll just make a page. And usually when I'm building things out, and this is true for support teams, I'll put the page name in, and if I don't already have content for it, I'll leave the page blank just for now. I think I had a how-to, yep. Liz, Lucidchart. Sorry, I'm chuckling because I worked at a company where I used that, and then they took it away, and that made me very sad. And then processes. Okay. Also, again, I'll keep calling out the chat. Please keep supporting each other, helping each other out. That is really great to see. That makes me super happy. Not that my happiness is your problem, but it's wonderful to see. So I've got this quick structure, Meet the Team, how-to articles, and process. Now I'm going to go back and actually do something to these pages. So for Meet the Team, I'm going to go and edit them. I tend to put these in just so a new joiner knows who's who, or if someone outside of support trips over this space, they can figure out who is in support, who they might need to go help. So this is where I want to consider what does it look like, and I will be completely transparent. I am not the world's best designer. I show things to my partner who is in marketing, makes beautiful slides, and it causes her physical pain sometimes when I show her something because it's not aligned, it's not quite perfect. So I'll do my best, and I expect all of you to jump on me in the chat if it looks completely horrible. I'm going to use the / and just look at my macros. What I see here is dependent on the add-ons I happen to have in Confluence. I don't have many. There's one in particular called Aura I have that I'll show you in a minute that helps make pages look prettier. But I'm looking for user profile. And what this will let me do is add in individuals. And I'll just pick on a couple folks. Maybe I only have 2 people on my support team, me and Jan. I can put in, little tabs for who is the team. And this is a great way to just show information. You can see there's an email and a name. I can click on it, and this just pulls in from my Atlassian profile. So again, I do this to show people who is the support team. Welcome to the team. Now, one limit with this is it is exclusive to what happens to be on the profile. So if they don't have an email, as my friend Jan here doesn't have, or if they're missing a title, it's hard to know what that person does. So the other way I've done this is to insert a table. Whoops. And then just stuff these user profiles into the table. And I'll just get rid of this extra column. And then I might add something like role. Many companies will have like the person's title included in their Atlassian profile, which is great. But this doesn't always tell you what the person does. So here I might be the knowledge manager for support, support team lead, and I would just go down and list all these folks out. This is very helpful for my new support people. Someone new to the team doesn't know anyone. They got to figure out who updates Confluence. Oh, it's this guy. I used the dinosaur, as you called it. I missed the dinosaur. I'm going to have to go through chat later and figure out what that is. I'll look forward to that surprise. Then I would just click update, and there we go. Now, the challenge with this approach is I have to update it. And that's where, again, I want to consider my process. What do I do over time to make sure that this page is updated? We can also do something, and I haven't done this a lot, honestly, the status on the page. I can change this to verified. Now, for groups that use the page status, this can be great. Only an admin or the owner can change the verified status. So someone else couldn't come in and edit this and modify it. However, most teams I work with don't use status. It's kind of hidden. It's hard to see. It doesn't have a lot tied into it. So if you're using it, just make sure that that's updated. And I won't even have time to talk about automations. There's so much stuff. Next, I'm going to go to my how-to articles, and I'm just going to start adding in how-to articles. This is the meat of a support space for me. It's how to do the things. So I'm going to click on all templates. And under support team resources, we can pick the space. I'll click on my templates, or maybe I'll click on featured because I promoted it. This is that template I made earlier, and I forget whose question it was, but this is how I templatize pages. This for me is a better process than having a page over here and copying it. I don't have to, mess with the name too much. It'll just have whatever the name is, but also it doesn't clutter up my page tree. So I won't have a section here just called templates that someone has to go through. It just pops up when they make a page. It's also easily searchable, and it's accessible across spaces. As long as I have access to the Robert Heen space, I can reach in and grab templates from that space. So this is a great way to share between teams. If you have multiple support teams, you might have templates in one of their spaces and then reach between spaces to access them. Dan, Visio. I liked Visio when I first used it, but that was more than a hot minute ago. I don't know how much it's changed. So what I would do is then just build out this, how to log into our system and whatever the steps are. I might realize, though, I'm missing something on this page. This is more just like how to solve the thing. My support team, though, is going to be working in tickets. Maybe they're in Jira. Maybe they're in some other system. They also need to know what are the common responses to this. And this is another area where templates can really help me out. I'm going to go back into my template, and I'm just going to go edit it. And I might add, what tab options do I have? Whoops, didn't mean to do that. That was, let's see. What I want to do is add like a common responses. Not that I don't want my support team to think through challenges and solve problems, but in cases where we know what they should respond with or know what they should do, I want to have that documented out right here on the page. So at the bottom of these or somewhere on these pages, I'll include a common response to whatever the thing is. So again, this is my template, so I'm just going to copy this. I might add some placeholder text. Oops. Not what I meant. Come here. And then go back to my how-to article. And I'm going to add that section. This way, when someone comes to this page, they'll see, what is the challenge. A user can't log in for some reason. And then how to do the thing. Screen share. Confirm what error they see. Review steps 4 through 10 for next steps. I would want to document that out in such a way that I could take anyone in the company and put them in front of it, and they could follow those steps. The idea is to clearly lay out everything that support person would need to do to solve the thing. So jump on a screen share and verify their issue. Confirm the error. If the error is error 6, your password expired. Reset their password, etc. And this is where working with your team or having someone on support who knows this can help you out. You can just ask them, hey, what should we do after this? How do I handle what's after that? The other thing I do at the bottom is responses. So this would be a canned response, something the person could just copy and paste. Hello. I just reset your password. And I would go down the list, and every outcome, I would try to plan out exactly what my support team member would tell them. Again, this helps reduce the time and distance it takes that support team member to recognize there's an issue, figure out how to solve it, and then what to tell the customer. This is where it can be time intensive, and this is where I see a lot of groups step back and say, nah, we're not going to do that. But this has a ton of value. This effort that we put in to document out as many things as possible, or ideally everything that team is expected to do, will help our support team because then they have everything they need. They just can come in here and they can search for, logging in, or they can search up in here. One thing I always breeze over are labels. I need to get better at this. But we want to add labels that relate to the challenge. So this is an error. It's a login error. It's about the name of a system. Maybe they can't log into Confluence. These labels will tie into macros and search and other things to help findability, which if that's not a word, I really want that to be a word. I'm going to quickly check chat, and I've got a few more minutes live before I talk about things like next steps. Social Club and Liz, two folks who are dedicated to support docs. I love that. I think we should all start our own social club and make t-shirts that just say we support. I think that would be pretty cool. Lots of back and forth. Love it. Is this something you can automate? Chris, what do you mean by, what is this? I'm sorry. Is that creating these pages? Is that adding the responses, or is that something else? Josh, thank you for that call out. There are things I do, and if you're like, I don't understand that, please call me out. Headers are super important. You can hyperlink to a header. I can copy this link, and anyone who opens it will go directly to that exact header. This is a great way to share information. You'll see it scroll down just to background. They also hook into other macros, which I'll quickly demonstrate, like a table of contents. So you'll see that these links automatically appeared. It's pulling in headers. This is one aspect of formatting that I'll dig into right now. But headers both break up our page. So just looking at this, I can see where the steps are. I don't have to read everything. I don't have to read everything. Sorry, I haven't seen that pop up before. But adding them in can be a pain in the butt because I have to come up. Let's see. I have to come up here and click heading and then pick the depth or the size. The default text is normal. And you'll notice these hotkeys. I'm on a Mac. It's Command Shift and then a number. So as I'm typing, if I just type in new header, I'll select the text and hit Command Shift and not that. Ha! I lied. That's Control Alt on my keyboard. I apologize. I don't really know what these symbols mean. I think that's Control and that might be Shift, but I've remapped some keys. But these hotkeys for me are very useful because I don't have to move my mouse and break my flow of documenting. So hopefully that was your question. Christopher Barron, is there something we can automate responses? I haven't found a way yet to automate these. The best advice I can give for responses is to brainstorm with your team. So take some time and sit down. Or if you have existing tickets, go through your existing tickets. And what you can do, and maybe I'll have a follow-up or a training on this because I really like doing this, but mining through all your responses and that support team I mentioned had a quality assurance team who would randomly sample tickets and then compare it to what the agent should have done. That team also helped us improve responses because they saw the good ones, the bad ones, the ones in between. And we would go through and find tickets that had a poor CSAT and like, maybe the response could be improved, and we want them updated. Command option. Susan, thank you for bailing me out on that one. So Christopher, you could try things like a large language model, but I'd recommend starting with your people right now. Like talk with them and say, hey, what are your 5 most common tickets? Okay, what are the stock, canned, basic, generic responses we should have? In Jira, there is a canned response feature, I believe, which also speeds this up. But I typically go through and I curate these manually just to make sure they're really solid. Atlassian ends support for labels in dashboards. Marta, I really hope, and I hope I'm saying your name properly, I really hope they don't get rid of labels because that would make me very sad. I have not seen anything to suggest Confluence will be removing labels. Personally, I can't see them doing that given what they do. They're metadata or information about information that make Confluence work better. So I would personally be very surprised if they did anything to get rid of or impair labels. But great question. Can we automate review requests when not updated after a period? Send a review request. Bart, I love that question. I will quickly talk about automations, and then I'm going to go to my last slide, and then I'll keep answering questions. One thing I didn't mention, I go through all of the chat. I will do some kind of follow-up. In the past, I've done one big video. I might do multiple videos, like shorter 1 or 2 minutes explaining each question, so they're easier to find. My first training I did about over a year ago, or about a year ago. It was 45 minutes. It wasn't enough time. I made them an hour. Now they're not enough time. What we're looking at are automations. These are available now in every version of cloud. However, basic and standard have a lot of limitations in terms of numbers of times they can run. So if you're using these on free or standard, you might not be able to run a lot of them. But if I just look in here, here we go. This is an out-of-the-box example. But this one is saying if a page is verified, make it inactive after a certain time. So this is just an example, Bart. I can demonstrate in a follow-up exactly what you're asking. But this is saying every week on Thursday at 9, look through inactive pages. And that's a page that no activity in 3 months. It hasn't been, viewed, edited, modified, moved, nothing. If the page status was verified, then change the status back to rough draft or something, and then email somebody. So this would go through and say, hey, this page was verified. It was considered good and gold standard, but no one's touched it in 3 months. Send Rob an email and ask him to look at it. I use this type of automation to help me keep track of things. Eric, I think automations are available for standard. I will definitely follow up, though, and either put a post on my YouTube channel or something. But I think I saw something about free and standard getting limited access to those. Josh recommends Jira canned response. I recommend it, too. Dan, bonus points for using a Mac. I'll be honest, I was a PC person, and then I got forced into using Mac because of where I happen to live. And now I'm just trapped using Mac. So... It's a computer. It does good. Okay, I only have a few moments left, and I always hate ending these because we get these great discussions going. But what's next? Check out Atlassian's community, community.atlassian.com. Use a personal email. And I say that because if you use a work email and you leave your company, you might lose access to your community account. There are ways you can talk to support to merge them. It's a pain in the rear. So I always recommend a personal email. You can even make a free one on Gmail if you don't want it in your main email. But community is a great spot. Message boards, forums, posts, these trainings, all of Atlassian University, which is free. Go check it out. But also get hands-on. Go into your Confluence or get a free one and just play around. Most of what I showed you in here you can do in free Confluence. So please play with it. It's important for us as people helping support to know the tools really well, and you can't really do that unless you go use it. So if your organization uses it, go explore. Go look at your current support team space and just see what they've done. Maybe it's awesome. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Check out my content. I'm going to be hosting a lot of live trainings on this channel. I have another channel as well, heen.tech, with some other stuff. But check out other people's content as well. As we've seen in the chat, there are many people who are really good at Confluence and systems, and that makes me really happy. So please go learn from them. I see similar names in a lot of my trainings who come in and help out folks, and that's awesome. If only one person learns something from here, even if it's not from me, that's a win. And then talk to people about Confluence. Find someone at your company or organization who is interested in it. They don't have to be a super expert. They just have to be curious about it. I've made a lot of great friends this way. I've learned a ton. But I guarantee you there is someone at your workplace who wants to learn more about this or do more. You just got to go find them, and then you can team up, and at least you have someone to talk to about this kind of stuff. Quickly going to check the chat, and then I'll jump back into Confluence and see what other damage we can do. But please drop your questions. This next 5 minutes is the last bit alive. Thank you, App Anvil. Definitely check out my LinkedIn. I try and do several posts a week on it. And App Anvil as well has some great info and content. That way, go back to Confluence. Okay, what did I want to talk about? My homepage. I forgot my homepage. See how easy it is to forget your homepage? This is the first page someone goes to when they come to the space, and many teams forget about it. So I'm just going to come in and edit it. Maybe welcome to the support team. Here's everything you need to support customers. From here, for a support team, I then might include things like, a link to how-to articles. And here I could even do something like a child display of a particular parent. This could be dangerous depending on how many pages there are. Oh, and there we are. Bleep. Or if I'm using something like excerpts to mirror information across different spaces, I could include that to include little blurbs or things. I could include how to get support. So again, someone trips over this, they don't know where they are. Or include a link or embed it or something. Liz, this is dumb. Not dumb. Because the page isn't called landing page, I didn't know what to do with it. Confluence doesn't do the best job telling folks what this is. It just shows up. It doesn't show up in the space tree or in the page tree, which is also confusing. But if you go into settings and look for reorder as a space admin, you can actually change the home page. So if I expand this, I'll see the page tree. Right now, here's my home page. So this is one way to reorder the page. If I go back to space details and find, where is it? Is it space details? I can change the home page to any other page in the space. This can be dangerous because then pages that aren't under it vanish from the page tree. However, you could make how-to articles your top-level page, if that makes sense for your team. All right, 2 minutes left. I'm going to quickly check the chat to see what else I can answer in the last minute. Oh, and I faded into the background. Canned responses are great. Dan, that is a very useful automation. Checking for pages. You don't have to just check for pages in a specific status. You could just say, if it's inactive for a month, come help me out kind of stuff. It was Command Option. Yep. All right, team. Well, I want to say thank you. You're spending time with me to learn about Confluence, which when I was younger, I never would have thought, hey, I'm going to get a bunch of folks and we're going to chat about a knowledge-based collaboration platform, and it's going to be fun. So, how to verify pages if it's turned on very quickly. All I need to do to verify a page is edit, and then change the status. Done. All that will do is prevent someone who isn't the page owner, Robert Heen, or a space admin from changing it back. So I personally haven't found super good use cases yet for that. The big challenge for me is most folks don't look at the status to know what is going on at the page. They just read the page. How do we get continuing education credits, CE credits? So all the live learnings will contribute towards your continuing education for your Atlassian certifications. I believe there is a way to submit. Christian, what I'll do is figure out the exact process and share it out. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'll figure out how to do that for you. But that is a beautiful question. Mission control. I'm going to go into space settings. This is available in premium and higher, but mission control is a great way to see statistics and information about your space. I've got a whole video on my other channel pulling this apart, but in active spaces, this is a great way to find pages without owners or pages that are inactive, etc. All right. So thank you all again. I really appreciate you all joining me. I'm doing my best to do one of these every week. I'm looking for content ideas, but every Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific to 7 a.m. Pacific, please join me. I'd love to have you come, share this with folks, make sure you subscribe so you get those alerts and notifications. But share your ideas on what you want to learn. I can come up with ideas, but it's much better if I hear them from you so I can give you what you want or need or expect. So thank you all so much again. I really like these. So I'm really happy that you all joined so I get to do them. So for now, I'm going to put on that beautiful animation again that I've got. Maybe. And wish you all a very good day. Here we go. Aha!